بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. Today's session, inshallah, session number 7, you should have the handout, is what is known from Islam by necessity about Idharuddin. Now, the word Idharuddin is very difficult to translate into very simple terms because it can mean many different things. One of the means to spread and propagate Islam. One of the means means to prevail Islam in opposition to the kufr. So it's apparent and obvious and showing. The other meaning, to dominate by Islam over all other ways of life, as well as meaning to spread Islam by the da'wah and the jihad fi sabilillah. All of these come under the topic of Idharuddin. Okay, so that is what we are going to be discussing today. This is a major foundation of Islam and the duty of every Muslim. So there's many things we must be aware about what is known from Islam and necessity about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Tawbah verse 33, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. He says he is the one who sent the messenger with the guidance and the deen of truth in order for it to dominate over all other ways of life, even though the mushrikeen hate it. So this is an important lesson for us in this ayah. Islam was not sent in order for the Muslims to be under the thumb of the kuffar, submitting and obeying their laws. Islam was not sent for the Muslim to be humiliated under man-made laws and seeking judgments from kuffar and their courts. Islam came to rule and dominate and to spread justice, al-adl, which is the whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, to govern mankind by the laws of Allah. That's what Islam was sent. Islam was sent as a criteria in order for all disputes to be settled by it, for all the people to refer to it. Islam was sent in order for the people to embrace it, not for the people to reject it or to fight it. So that is the role of Islam in the world, is to be the dominant party, to be the dominant deen, and for all other religions, if they remain, to be submitting in humiliation under the authority of Islam. So the deen of Islam was sent with this mission of the Prophet ﷺ to make the deen dominant. And that mission of the Prophet is the mission of the Ummah of Muhammad, the mission of the nation of the Muslims after the Prophet ﷺ is our job and our role and our duty. So we must understand this, inshaAllah. The deen as well, when we talk about the deen, it is what you believe in, which we've discussed already, what is known by necessity about what we believe in. What you live by, mean you live according to the sharia of Allah, or the rules of Allah in all of your affairs, and you die upon it, or you die for it, in the da'wah and the jihad fi sabilillah. That is the deen. Some people, their deen is something else, not Islam. For example, democracy. People believe in democracy. Not that Allah is the only legislator, that the people are legislators. That's what they believe. And they live according to whatever laws their parliaments and their people legislate. And they die for democracy and fight and kill for democracy. That is their deen, but it's not our deen. Nor is the Christians, the Christianity, that is the deen of the Christians. And they believed in it, lived by it, and they died in their own crusades and killed and massacred people, especially Muslims, in their own crusades. Whereas the Muslims, we believe in Islam, in Tawheed. We believe in the Aqeedah of Islam. And we live according to the Sharia of Allah revealed in the Quran and Sunnah. And we die upon Islam. We don't die upon any other religion. Even if that means spreading Islam by the da'wah and the jihad and dying upon that. That is part of Idharuddin. So the first point, inshallah, for us to discuss in terms of what is known by necessity from Idharuddin. Okay. Okay. I put here spreading or dominating by Islam. Okay. First point, الدعوة إلى الله. You must call to Allah. It's compulsory in Islam for every Muslim to be a da'i. That is our role, that's our job, is to call people to Islam, to call people to Allah. Okay? To call people to Allah, to call people to obey Allah, to worship Allah, to believe in Allah, to accept Allah. That is our duty. Okay? And even, that includes all of Islam. We don't separate between the Aqidah and the Sharia. That is the rejected deviation and the bid'ah of the Mu'tazila and the Ash'ariyah and the others. Islam is one, is united. Belief in our heart, belief in our tongue, belief in our actions. They are united together. We don't call the people to believe in their heart in Islam, but then they live by democracy and they go to the elections and they vote in democracy. That's called hypocrisy, nifaq, and it's called shirk and kufr, apostasy. We call them to believe in Islam, to testify to Islam, and to live by Islam. That is what we call the people to. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah 16 verse 125. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين. Allah says, call to the path of your Lord with the hikmah, the sunnah, and the effective preaching, and debate with them in the best manner. And Allah is the best to know about who is misguided from His path and who is guided. Imam al-Tabari said in this ayah, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika," call to the path of your Lord means call the people to the Sharia of Allah that He legislated for His slaves. Is in Tafsir al-Tabari on this verse, Surah 16 verse 125. Also Allah Ta'ala says in Surah Fussilat, Surah 41 verse 33. Surah 41 verse 33. أعوذ بالله من الرجيم. ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. He said, who is better in his own saying, his speech, than the one who calls to Allah and he does good deeds and he says, I am from the Muslims. In fact, the entire topic of Izharuddin is focused around this aim and this purpose of da'wah ila Allah. One thing which is famously known about the fiqh and the ulama is that duties such as the da'wah and the jihad, commanding good, forbidding the evil, the khilafah and the sharia authority, is all aimed at da'wah to Allah. All of it. Ghayatul jihad ad-da'wah ila Allah. Okay? The ulama said the objective of the jihad is da'wah. How? Not because somebody's going to force them to embrace Islam, but because the jihad removes the obstacles from the da'wah. Those kuffar who are fighting the da'wah and preventing you calling to Islam, those people who are ta'ifatul mumtani'ah, the entity that's preventing the sharia and preventing Islam from spreading, the jihad is to fight them and to remove them so that the people can embrace Islam. The purpose of jihad is not to kill everybody, it's not to massacre everybody. That's not the purpose. That's the American war and their own crusades. Islam, the jihad is in order for the people to hear about Islam. So we go there and we first, that's why the Prophet always used to say, before you fight, call them first. He never used to send somebody to fight people without to call them to Islam first, to give them that chance. And if they still insist, they don't want to, then offer them jizya, let them live in peace. We don't want to fight you, but live under the Islam, and then you can hear about Islam. Even if you don't become Muslim, you can live and have jizya and be dhimmi, have all of the goodness, and you hear about Islam. They can hear the da'wah. And if they reject that and they want to fight you, then fight them. So you see, the objective of the jihad is also da'wah. The objective of commanding good, forbidding the evil is what? To call people to leave the disobedience to Allah and call them to obey the sharia of Allah. What is the purpose of the khilafah, the authority? Is for the da'wah to spread. It's so that the borders of Islam can reach all corners of the earth and the people can hear about Islam there. And even the non-Muslims can experience Islam. They can see Islam all around them. For them, at that time it becomes very easy for them to embrace Islam, because the obstacles are not there. In the UK, why is it so difficult? What are some of the obstacles that are preventing people to embrace and accept the da'wah? When people are drunk all the time, when people are watching pornography and these movies all the time, glamorizing the haram and the sin and the shirk and the kufr, when people are engaging all of this evil, they don't want to contemplate about Allah. They are distracted from the deen. That's the trick of the shaitan. That's why you see a lot of people, when they go to prison, they're no longer drunk anymore. They're no longer chasing women anymore, because the only women are prison guards and they're all lesbians. The only people there for them is nobody to corrupt them or to distract them from their Lord. So that's when they start to find Allah and remind themselves of Allah and to contemplate. So this is why the da'wah, it is better and easier for the people to receive it when they are living under the khilafah. The second point, inshallah, إظهار الدين. Prevailing the deen. Okay, prevailing the deen. The objective of all of this da'wah as well is for Islam to prevail, for the people to distinguish between Islam and the kufr. So it's clear who is who, for the deen to come out and be in public, for the word of Allah to be the highest, and ultimately for it to dominate and rule over all other ways of life. On this we mentioned the ayah already, Surah 9 verse 33. Allah Ta'ala says, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. He said, He is the one who sent the messenger with the guidance and the deen of truth in order for it to dominate over all other ways of life, even though the mushrikeen hate it. Okay, even though the mushrikeen hate it. So this deen was sent with the messenger in order for it to dominate, for it to be apparent, not to be hidden or to be subdued. One of the ultimate forms of إظهار الدين is the next point, إقامة الخلافة. Establishing the khilafah, establishing the Islamic ruling system. Okay, this is a duty, a fard, a wajib upon all of us, and it's not allowed for us to leave it. It's not allowed for us to neglect it. It's not allowed for us to say that no, we can do it next year. It's not allowed at all. No, the duty of iqamat al-khilafah, establishing the khilafah, originally is called fard kifaya, meaning it is sufficient. If some people gather together at Ahl al-Hal wal-Aqd and they appoint a khalifa, then that duty has been fulfilled, and they start to rule and judge by whatever Allah revealed in a province, and they have a state, that is the duty been fulfilled. But when nobody does that for 3 days, everybody becomes sinful until they establish it. And it's not allowed for anybody to say, don't do it, hold back, I don't think it's a good idea. Who are you to say it's not a good idea? Allah said to do it, and the time limit has gone past. If we have capability, we are obliged to do it. إعلان الخلافة مقصد من مقاصد الدين. The establishment of the khilafah, it is an objective from the objectives of the deen. We cannot leave it. We cannot neglect it at all. So we must establish the khilafah. Okay, that is the Islamic ruling system, the government that is ruling by according to what Allah revealed, enforcing the legislation of Allah subhanahu. Allah says in Surah Nisa verse 49. Surah Ma'idah verse 49. Surah 5 verse 49. Allah says, وَأَنِحْكُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعْ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ وَاحْذَرْهُمْ أَنْ يَفْتِنُوكَ عَنْ بَعْدِ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ وإن تولوا فاعلم أنما يريد الله أن يصيبهم ببعض ذنوبهم وإن كثيرا من الناس لفاسقون. He said, rule and judge whatever Allah revealed, and don't follow their desires. And be careful of them in case they distract you or divert you from even part or some of what Allah revealed to you. And if they turn away, then know that Allah wishes to punish them with some of their sins. But the majority of the people are sinners. This is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for ordering us to rule over the people by Islam. And that is a divine duty that cannot be fulfilled except by the Sharia mechanism, the Sharia method, which is the establishment of Khilafah, the establishment of one Islamic Muslim ruler who will take authority by bay'ah, by oath, and the people will hand the authority which is in their hand over to the Khalifa, who will rule and judge between them by whatever Allah revealed, and they will listen and obey. Okay? And there can only be one Khalifa. That means anywhere in the world where there is a state being established and a Khalifa being appointed, that is the only Khalifa. There is no second Khalifa. You cannot have second Islamic state someone else. That is why that Khalifa has Imara Am, general authority over all Muslims. Because nobody can say, no, I will obey somebody else. How can you obey somebody else? That means you have another second Khalifa. It's not allowed. So the Khalifa has authority over all Muslims, even though his actual physical authority is only within the borders of the state. And his duty to fulfill the laws of Allah and govern by those laws is only within that province. But his authority extends to all Muslims wherever they are in the world. Okay. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in Musnad Ahmad, he said, verily this deen will reach everywhere that the day and the night reaches. And Allah will leave no house in any country or city except that the deen will enter it, whether by embracing it with dignity or submitting to it is rule with humiliation. I'll repeat inshallah. The hadith says, verily this deen will reach wherever the day and the night reaches. Okay? This deen will reach wherever the day and the night reaches. And Allah will leave no house in any country or city except He will let the deen enter it. Whether by embracing it with dignity, whether by embracing it with dignity or abiding by its laws in humiliation. Okay. He said, whether by embracing it with dignity or abiding by its laws in humiliation. The Prophet ﷺ as well, he prophesied about, when this duty will be neglected. And he said, the buttonholes of Islam will be untied one after the other. Okay? The buttonholes of Islam will be untied one after the other. And whenever one buttonhole is untied, the people will hold onto the remaining ones. So the buttonholes of Islam will be untied one after the other. And whenever one buttonhole is untied, the people will hold on to the remaining ones. And the first to be untied will be the ruling by Islam, ruling by the Sharia. And the last to be untied will be the Salah. Yeah? Musnad Imam Ahmad. Okay. So the first to be untied will be ruling by the Sharia, and the last to be untied will be the Salah. Okay. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu said in Sunan al-Bayhaqi, he He said it's not lawful for the Muslims to be without an imam for 3 days. Okay? He said it's not lawful for the Muslims to be without an imam for 3 days. This is Umar al-Khattab in Sunan al-Bayhaqi. This matter, by the way, as the course suggests, is known from Islam by necessity. That's why even if you are working collectively in Jama'ah and somebody orders you, even though you're capable to establish Khilafah, I don't want you to establish Khilafah. We're not ready yet. Let's do it next time. If he believes he's capable to establish it, he is obliged to establish it even in disobedience to the Amir, because the Prophet ﷺ said there's no obedience to the creation in disobedience to the Creator. Okay? Establishing the Khilafah is fard, known from Islam by necessity. Nobody can forbid you or prevent you or stop you from doing that. Number 4, what follows on from this? Bay'ah. You must give bay'ah or allegiance to the Khalifa. Okay, so once that Khalifa has been appointed, if he's a legitimate, valid Khalifa, he meets all the conditions, he's Muslim, he's main, he's sane, he's mature, he's capable, and even the recommended conditions like being Qurayshi and alim and brave, even if all those have been fulfilled, and he has authority and he rules by Islam, does not rule by any kufr, you must obey him. You must give him the allegiance. That bay'ah can either be the physical bay'ah by the hand, swearing the oath that I will give you bay'ah to listen and obey, or it could be
clean as a butterfly, a baby elephant, a baby chicken.
Yeah. Anyway, so it could be the physical bay'ah, and you declare it publicly with your own tongue that you give bay'ah to listen and obey, or it could be, especially for those far away, the general obedience by obeying the Khalifa. That is your bay'ah, and that is accepted. So you recognize him as the Khalifa and you obey him. That is sufficient as bay'ah for the majority of the people, whereas usually the physical bay'ah is only done by a few of the people who are from Ahl al-Hal wal-Aqd, or those who are able to do so by meeting him or his deputy. The Prophet ﷺ said in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever withdraws his hand from obedience, okay, meaning the bay'ah, whoever withdraws his hand of obedience will meet Allah with no excuse, and whoever dies without being on his neck the bay'ah, he will die the death of Jahiliyyah. And even if the Khalifa makes mistakes or commits sins, even if he oppresses some people, that is not an excuse or permit for you to refrain from bay'ah. It's not allowed. You must remain on the bay'ah to him unless you see kufr bawah, unless you see clear kufr. In Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever sees from his Amir anything evil, let him be patient, because the one who keeps away from al-jama'ah and dies will die the death of Jahiliyyah. Okay, al-jama'ah in this hadith does not mean just a general jama'ah like the jama'ah in your masjid of salah. It means jama'atul muslimin, which means those Muslims living in Darul Islam under the Khalifa.
Repeat the previous hadith.
The previous hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever withdraws his hand of obedience will meet Allah without any excuse, and whoever dies without being on his neck a bay'ah, an allegiance, he will die the death of Jahiliyyah.
Can you repeat the second one?
Yeah. And the second one, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever sees from his Amir anything evil, let him be patient, because the one who keeps away from the jama'ah and dies will die the death of Jahiliyyah. Okay. And there's another hadith in Sahih Muslim and Sunan al-Nasa'i that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever gives up obedience and distance himself from the Jama'ah and then dies, he dies the death of Jahiliyyah. Distance himself from the Jama'ah means to live in Dar al-Kufr instead of Dar al-Islam. Okay, so the one who gives up the bay'ah and lives in the Dar al-Harb instead of Dar al-Islam, this is the one who dies the death of Jahiliyyah. That could be the Kufr Akbar if he allies with those kuffar and lives with them and cooperates with them against Islam, or it could be Kufr Asghar if he was just a sinner, disobeying the Amir, disobeying the Khalifa and imitating the people there. Okay. Number 5. طاعة وللأمر. Okay. Obeying those in authority from among us. I put here, obeying those Muslims in authority. Okay, because we don't obey kuffar. There's nothing called obeying the kuffar. Okay, we must obey those in authority among us from the Muslims, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Nisa verse 59, sorry. Okay, Surah Nisa verse 59. يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا. He says, oh, you who believe, obey Allah and obey the Messenger and those in authority among you. But if you differ with them in any matter, then refer it back to Allah and His Messenger if you truly believe in Allah and the last day. And that is the better for you and is the best interpretation or determination. So Allah ordered us to obey those ulama and khulafa and umara. Okay, those scholars, because they are in authority above us, and those leaders, whether the Khalifa or the one he appoints. Or even if you appoint a Khalifa, appoint an Amir yourself, among yourself for some small task or duty like a journey, you must obey that Amir. The Amir is appointed to be obeyed. Okay, he's not appointed to be disobeyed. People ask, what if I disagree with the decision? Like somebody could say, look, you know, sorry to bring this example, but an Amir sends his soldiers to a different land and he orders them with what to do there. Then he orders them with a new task, a new duty to do there. But they feel that this strategy is not good enough, is not the best. This strategy, this 1,000 means is not good because we won't be popular, the people won't like us, we should use a different means, so therefore they disobey. Is that valid ijtihad? This is wrong, it's incorrect. Because he's not allowed to disobey the Amir because you disagree on strategy and 1,000 means, because those are permissible matters. In those matters the Amir's decision is binding. If he orders you to disobey Allah in something haram, that is what you must disobey the Amir in only. But you obey him in the permissible matters. Otherwise, what's the point in appointing the Amir? If he makes a decision about the strategy and you don't want to obey him, why do you appoint him in the first place? So you obey the Amir in all permissible matters, in all good deeds you will obey him. The Prophet ﷺ as well, he said that من أطاعني فقد أطاع الله. The one who obeys me has obeyed Allah. ومن أطاع أميري فقد أطاعني. The one who obeyed the Amir, my Amir, he has obeyed me. Okay, so whoever obeys me has obeyed Allah. And whoever obeys my Amir, my leader, meaning any leader that's been appointed, he has obeyed me. And he said, وَمَنْ عَصَانِي فَقَدْ عَصَى اللَّهِ وَمَنْ عَصَى أَمِيرِي فَقَدْ عَصَانِي. And the one who disobeys me has disobeyed Allah. And the one who disobeyed my Amir has disobeyed me. This is a very important concept to understand, because especially when you're engaged in dangerous duties like the revival of the ummah, the da'wah and the jihad. In the da'wah, when people disobey, what happens? People are late to the da'wah stall, maybe they come late to the halaqah, brothers, and sometimes what? Sometimes people let you down. Sometimes people, they don't do what they're supposed to do. Maybe they start to have grudges. In the battlefield, however, if you disobey the Amir, people die. In the jihad, when people disobey the Amir, the enemy defeats the Muslims. Like what happened in Uhud. In the battle of Uhud, even under the authority of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his soldiers, he appointed them and he ordered them with something to stay on the mountain from the archers, and when they disobeyed, the Muslims were defeated in battle. So you see how dangerous it is to disobey the Amir. That's why obedience to the Amir is so vital, so important. And the Amir in the jihad has authority over all matters in the jihad. Over the ghanima, over the fay, over the finances, over the booty, over the sabaya, over the ribat, over the training, over which front, everything is not up to the soldier. The Amir decides that they must obey. Number 6. Inshallah. التشديد على الأتباع. Not to be harsh with the followers. Okay. Meaning the Amir, the leader, as well, he must know from Islam by necessity that it's not allowed for him to be harsh with his own followers, and to be oppressive towards them, or to ask them to do something beyond their limits, or to be particularly difficult as an Amir over his own subjects. Okay, even the father over his children. They need to be more careful in the way that they treat them and they deal with them. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent an Amir, in an expedition, and he told him, fear Allah in yourself and treat the Muslims with you or under you good. Okay, so he ordered